It's 1988 and Garry Kasparov is playing a simultaneous exhibition match against the US junior team. One opponent though caused Kasparov to start ranting to the point where a junior even had to shush him because Kasparov was distracting the players.
If you think that this result is much more important for you than the game, sorry.
But before we understand why Kasparov got so angry, we first need to analyze the game and why Edelman decided to accept the draw. The game opens with a variation of the Sicilian defense. Both players just do their memorized opening moves until we reach move 9. Basically, in this position, Edelman had to move the knight or else he would get forked. So, he moves the knight on d5, protected by the pawn, and just generally developing his pieces. However, this is where it gets questionable. The obvious move here for Kasparov is to move the bishop to b7. It develops the bishop and puts some pressure on the knight and the pawn. But Kasparov doesn't do that. Instead, he moves the queen to a5. This move is terrible not because it is a blunder, but because it is offering the opponent a draw on move 10. Why is it a draw, you ask? Well, that is because it puts the junior opponent in a tough position. If white defends with pawn to c3, then the pawn on e4 is taken by the knight. If queen defends on d2, then black ends up in a better and easier position to play. Stockfish says it's almost equal for both cases, but at the time Edelman was rated 2400, so to him it might have looked like a lost position. So, the only play here is to send the bishop back to d2, which attacks the queen and forces it to go back to the start since the white knight corners everything else. That is exactly what Edelman did. After this, they just ended up repeating moves and the game ended in a draw. This caused Kasparov to lose his cool, which brought us to this moment.
It's not game. You have white and you play against world champions. Your only chance.
He was the one who initiated the draw. He made the repetition, which forces white to either take the draw or play some unclear line, which I don't believe gives white an advantage. So I was hoping that he'd play better, but he didn't. He gave me the draw.
You made a bad mistake, yes. Because when I was young, I couldn't miss the chance to play against world champion, even a known position. If you think that this result is much more important for you than the game, sorry. But this draw. Ask Gambit.
Kasparov ranting to the kid is a bad thing to do, but who was in the right here? Was it Kasparov who intentionally tried to weaken the position of the opponent so he could get an easier win? Or was it Edelman who accepted the draw because he knew he could not handle that position? Well, I think Edelman was in the wrong. While Kasparov's draw offer was unfair, the game was still not rated and there was no prize involved. Edelman just decided to challenge Kasparov's ego and succeeded. But for the first time, I agree with Kasparov. He did offer a draw, but as white, Edelman could have had a chance to win that game since Kasparov was playing against 5 more people. But what do you think?